Welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host. And the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us exploring, imagining, thinking, connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do a bit more because we've made that connection. Our topic today is celebrating Anishinaabe songs, their power to connect and heal. Joining us is author Marcy Rendon, and she is of the White Earth Ojibwe tribe. And she has written Anishinaabe songs for a new millennium. Welcome, Marcy. I'm so glad you're here today.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we have a beautiful book with awesome poetry, and some of the write-ups of your work have included "The ancestors who walk with us sing our song. When we get quiet enough, we can hear them sing and make audible to people today." In the Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium, Marcy Rendon, a member of the White Earth Nation, summons those ancestors' songs, and so begins the dream singing for generations to come. Tell me a little bit about how these songs can manifest the future and inspire young people today, especially.
So I think that, there's so much historical conversation that as Native people, we were going to disappear.
Mhm.
That, the Curtis paintings, Francis Densmore collecting of our music, the cowboy western movies. It was
Sure.
all of those things said that Native people were going to be killed off. We weren't going to be here. And then with the boarding schools, the taking of the language, the making illegal Native ceremony up until the Freedom of Religion Act in 1976, I believe it's 76 or 78, where once again we could actually practice our belief systems. And so the general population and Native people in a certain way kind of think, oh, well, these things aren't relevant anymore. Not relevant, but they don't exist.
Or we're not connected to them. Because
Right.
they don't exist, we can't connect.
Right. And, I've been writing this collection for 30 years, 40
Wow.
years.
Wow.
And finally got it, put together into a book. But it's like the teachings aren't gone.
Mhm.
Our relatives kept the teachings alive. Our relatives kept the ceremonies alive, kept the language alive. And so now we can access those things. And many people don't speak Ojibwe. So there's kind of this belief that we're not getting songs anymore.
Mhm.
But the truth is that we are. But we're getting them in English, or we're getting them, I have friends who sing at, the drums, and they compose songs. So nothing is lost. We just have to find it again.
Find it, remember it, connect to it.
Yes.
You also were very inspired by Gerald Visner. I've got a quote here. "The Anishinaabe heard stories in their dream songs," Ojibwe author Gerald Visner wrote. "And like those stories once inscribed in pictographs on birch bark scrolls, Rendon's poem songs evoke the world still unfolding around us, reflecting our place in time for future generation." Tell me a little bit about your inspiration by Gerald Visner.
So he had a book that was published in the early 70s. I think it was Anishinaabe songs. That's not Ojibwe songs. Oh dear, spring songs. I'm totally blanking on the title.
I'll find it. I've got my notes. I'll just scroll down a little bit here. But you go right ahead.
This was in the early 70s, and I was writing these very short, not haiku, but very short poems, and being dismissed, being told, well, this isn't really poetry. And then I got Visner's book, and they're translations of Ojibwe songs. And I thought, this is what I'm doing.
Exactly.
I'm just doing it in English, not in Ojibwe. And
And
here he's translated them into English for us to be able to read.
and I've got the title,
Okay.
Summer in the Spring, Anishinaabe Lyric Poems and Stories. It was edited and interpreted by Ojibwe author Gerald Visner and published by the University of Oklahoma Press in 1963, with later editions in 79, 81, and 93.
Yes, yes.
And and you found yourself and your poetry in that poetry.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I'm doing this.
Affirmation time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Especially when there's no, there were so few mirrors back in that time
Mhm.
that existed of who we were. Or, you had to dig to find anything written by a Native person.
And I don't, did he refer to them as dream songs or do you refer to them as dream songs?
I don't know if he did.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, the way that we're taught is that every person has their song, and you have to just get quiet enough to hear it, and that oftentimes the ceremonial songs will come to you in a dream. So, and I'm not saying that these are ceremonial songs at all, but often what happens for me with my writing of the poetry anyways is I'll be sound asleep, I'll wake up, and that poem will be there. And if I can write it down quick enough, I've got it.
Uh-huh. The gift of the dream.
Excuse me. So that's how, I think that's where I decided to call these dream songs.
It's also been written about you that her singing, breaking the boundaries that time would impose, carries the Anishinaabe way of life forward in the world. Tell me about breaking the boundaries of time that would impose.
Oh dear, who wrote that?
I believe it. That's our friend Heather, I bet. My guess is Heather. Heather Skinner, thank you. And again, I give him you permission to let go. That's a crazy question. I'm not going there.
No, I think, there's something about this, like there's been this cap put on, what we can or can't do, or what's lost, what's forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm writing, and a lot of what I'm saying is these things haven't been forgotten. They're not gone. We just have to pay close enough attention, whether that's to the ceremonies, to the language. So like my language teacher, Mimigwesi, he's doing an online Ojibwe language course, and I think there's like 1,000 people signed up on it.
Isn't that wonderful?
And that's across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, he has students from New Zealand apparently,
Yep.
but he's not the only one teaching the language. So it's like our relatives kept these things alive for us. They kept alive the traditions and the belief systems and the ceremonies. And all I'm doing with this book is I'm writing down the songs that I've written or the poems that I've written, and saying to other people, you can do this too. There's a gentleman up north, Sonny Peacock, who I know he has a collection of these similar kind of dream songs, but he hasn't gotten them published yet.
The other thing that I like about the sense of timelessness is that you are linking to what has always been and how ancestors have kept it alive, but you're also linking to the future. It's like
Right.
Time is a different concept that doesn't pertain almost to the constancy or the connection of past, present, and future. It's all one.
Yeah, I think quantum physics is starting to talk about, it's what time goes like this as opposed to.
Exactly.
but we're also taught, like we're supposed to think 7 generations ahead. So when we're thinking about the water today, how do we ensure that the next 7 generations will have water? How do we send our thoughts forward 7 generations so that people in the future know that we're thinking about them, praying for them, sending the best ahead for them? And in that way, time isn't locked into past, present, and future.
Right.
It's more fluid.
And perhaps we sense the 7 generations before and their prayers and thoughts for us.
Yes.
And their imaginations and gifts of what they wanted and believed for us.
Right, right.
And what
I was in South Dakota, and one of the elders was talking about how, like during the time when things were illegal, whether it was the language, the ceremonies, the songs, people went underground. They just did it undercover so that things would be remembered, so that they could be brought forward.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a time now where we don't have to go undercover. We can bring it forward.
We can sing out loud.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I need to go to break, but I want to make sure that our audience knows how to get your book, Beautiful Poetry. I'm going to suggest that you go to upress.umn.edu. That's upress.umn.edu. When you go to that site, look up Marcie Rendon, and that's MarcieRendon, Marcie Rendon. Marcie's got lots of books. Go for get all of them, but especially look for the Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium. And in our next segment, Marcie, I'd love to have you share some of your poetry with our audience. I love your poetry, and I'd love to have you share a little bit about each one that we choose today to share. So thank you. We'll be right back. There we go. After a few short commercials.
Minnesota.
Welcome back to the Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and I'm glad you've joined the conversation. Our topic today is celebrating Anishinaabe songs, their power to connect and heal. And joining us is author Marcie Rendon. Welcome, Marcie. I'm so glad you're here today.
Glad to be here.
And your wonderful new book, Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium.
And I'm going to read a couple of poems right now. Yes.
Oh, sure. We can go right to the poetry. That would be fabulous. Which poem are you going to choose to share with us?
Well, I think the first two that are in the book, they're, like when you're listening to people sing at the drum,
mm-hmm.
and they're singing in Ojibwe, there's very few words there's very few actual words. That the majority of the song is vocables.
Okay.
And so these first two poems are just very short. They're as short as haiku, sometimes even shorter, but they're not in that style of haiku. But they're to create an image, make people think about what could be happening in the poem. Mm-hmm. So the first one is thunder calling. I heard that bird sitting on the ground. And the second one is gentle moonbeams blossom on the windowsill.
I love that.
So again, they're just very short. And if they were to be sung at a drum or in the traditional Ojibwe style, there would be a lot of vocables surrounding that little group of words.
Take me back to that second one again. I love moonbeams on a windowsill.
Gentle moonbeams blossom on the windowsill.
I mean, it takes you right to that windowsill, doesn't it? And looking out at the stars. I mean, it may be short, but the image is strong.
And that's typical, at least in my experience, of the traditional songs,
mm-hmm.
where there's a whole lot is said in very few words, or there's an image that's created. That, so like in that first one, thunder calling, I heard that bird sitting on the ground. the thunderbird plays a huge spiritual significance in Ojibwe culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so that those few words can evoke any number of images for different people depending on who's reading it or listening to it.
I also love the one that starts with grandmother walks moonlit trails. Would you share that one too?
Sure. This is a collection of 4 very short ones that are linked together. And when I was working with the editor, Eric, he's the one that helped form some of these.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were already written, but he said, well, let's link these ones together. So this one, grandmother walks moonlit trails, sucking maple syrup cubes, birch bark wraps itself around her, while black bear guards her path. 2. At the water's edge, in a rock upon the path, flickering in an evening flame, I see her face. 3. Mist rises off the lake, trees shiver, fish slide, spirits rise, ancestors sing away aloneness. 4. Grandmother stands on sacred ground, the ancient ways are never lost, only, maybe, temporarily forgotten. Lakes of rice and Turtle Island riverbeds regenerate ancestral memory. It is not a gift easily forgotten. I remember my ancestors' words.
There's so much packed in all of that. I'd love to go back to that number 1. And we talked a little bit earlier before the show about the birch bark. So grandmother walks in moonlit trails, sucking maple syrup cubes. Birch bark wraps itself around her, while black bear guards her path. Tell me again about the birch bark and how important that is to the Ojibwe people.
Well, the use of birch bark is in almost everything in Ojibwe life, from that lines sucking maple syrup cubes. So you can make vessels out of birch bark, and traditionally people would collect the birch bark in those, and then it would get boiled down, and you can make the sugar cubes in the little boxes of birch bark. The traditional teachings were written on birch bark of the pictographs from the ceremonial that are used in the ceremonial lodges were written on birch bark. I've heard that lightning won't strike a birch bark tree. So there's many utilitarian uses for birch bark. There's medicine that grows on the birch bark tree. There's, medicine in the bark. So there's just, that line, birch bark wraps itself around her, says a whole lot about the sacredness of birch bark, but then also how it protects at least the grandmother in this particular piece.
And tell me about the black bear guarding her path.
Just that.
It's guarding her, okay?
Yep, we all, that's another teaching. We all have, spirits that watch out for us, protect us. For some, it's a black bear. For some, it's another, ancestor.
Well, the bear seems very maternal to me as well. So there's a maternal strain of a bear protecting its grandmother, the grandmother who's walking on the moonlit trails.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the evening flame where you see her face. Is that like the dream?
So at night, if you build a fire by the lake, you can see the fire in the lake. You can see the images of people around the fire, or images that aren't physically there. So this poem is referencing all of that, the sacredness of the fire, the sacredness of the water, the sacredness of the rock.
Mm-hmm.
In our culture, we're taught that everything has spirit, everything has life. And so everything in those 4 lines has life.
And it continues in the next one with the mist off the lake, which when the mist rising has a spiritual feeling to it as that mist rises, as well as the spirit of the fish sliding rising and I love this part. The ancestors sing away aloneness.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, we're never alone. You know, you can be all by yourself. But again, back to that, while black bear guards her path. You know, there's always ancestors that are walking with us. So we're never alone.
And grandmother stands on sacred ground in the fourth stanza. The ancient ways are never lost, only maybe temporarily forgotten.
That references the whole, the policies against us as Native people that were meant to make us disappear. And then we're taught, everybody's taught, including Native people, in the educational system that, the songs disappeared, the ceremonies disappeared, that we disappeared. If I visit in New York, there's people who say, well, the Indians are dead. No, I'm not. I'm here.
Yeah.
So there's some way where we think that things have been forgotten, but our ancestors and people who are living, our grandmothers, our aunties, our uncles, there are things that they remember and they're ready to bring them forward and bring them out and to teach us again. We just have to be ready to listen.
And to celebrate the lakes of rice.
Yes.
And to celebrate the Turtle Island riverbeds.
Yes.
And that regeneration through that celebration and that connectedness to the Turtle Island. I love how you put, it is not a gift easily forgotten. I remember my ancestors' words. Beautiful poetry. I'd like to remind our audience that you can have one of these beautiful books that is filled with lovely poetry by Marcy. To get her book, I encourage you to go to upress.umn.edu. Again, that's upress.umn.edu. And look up Marcy Rendon, Marcy spelled with a C-I-E. And be sure to look for the new book, Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium. And when we come back, we'll hear some more poetry from Marcy. Thank you, Marcy, for sharing, and I look forward to our next segment together.
Right.
Welcome to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and I'm glad you've joined the conversation. Our topic today is celebrating Anishinaabe songs, their power to connect and heal. And joining us is author Marcy Rendon, and she is sharing from her book, Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium. And I'm going to brag on you a little bit, Marcy. She was included in Oprah Winfrey's 2020 list of the 31 Native American authors to read. She's written numerous works of fiction and nonfiction, including the Cash Black Bear Mystery Series, the third volume of which, Sinister Graves, was a 2023 Minnesota Book Award finalist. In 2020, she received Minnesota's McKnight Distinguished Artist Award. And 2017, with poet Diego Vasquez, she received the Loft Spoken Word Immersion Fellowship for their work with the incarcerated women in the county jail system. Thank you for all that you do, Marcy. You bring poetry to all of us, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
In this third segment, we talked about you sharing a little bit longer poem, Mad Dog Ogeechee Dog. And
Yes.
I'm just going to let you open up and run with that, and then we can talk about it after sharing that piece.
Okay. So this was a duet that I wrote when I was in the Nautilus Music Theater composer librettist studio back in early 2000s. And so it was a 2-week long. It went on forever, but it was so intense.
Uh,
It was one of those life-changing things where as writers, we got to work with composers.
mm-hmm.
And so this Mad Dog Oh Gitchy Dog was a duet that I wrote during that time. Mad Dog is one of the singers, and Oh Gitchy Dog is one of the other ones. Mad Dog. Loneliness and Mad Dog, my constant company. 12 years of mission school erased my history. Loneliness and Mad Dog, my only company. Oh Gitchy Dog. Wake up, old man. Have a memory. Mad Dog. Loneliness, confusion, delusional illusions. All I have are drunken bones, a logger's long forgotten dreams. Loneliness and Mad Dog to keep me company. Oh Gitchy Dog. Wake up, old man. There are no broken memories, only forgotten destinies. Mad Dog. Oh ah yay ha oh ah hey. Drunken dreams are all you get from me. You want to know the past, my son? Oh ah ya hey oh ah hey. Romantic inconsideration for a history drenched in blood. Relocation, forced acculturation, termination, excommunication. Omnio Domnio, Jesus Christ. Oh ah ya hey oh ah hey. Romantic inconsideration for a history drenched in blood. Mad Dog and loneliness, my only company. Oh Gitchy Dog. I offered you tobacco, you pocketed the same. All I'm asking, old man, is to give me a name. Mad Dog. Mad Dog, Red Dog, Jack Pine Tree, Winter Wind, Snowblind, old fools like me. Oh Gitchy Dog. Wake up, old man. There are no broken memories, only forgotten destinies. Mad Dog. Black Dog, Old Dog, Crow Dog, Spotted Hawk, 3, Yellow Hawk, Raven Wing, goddamn me. Oh Gitchy Dog. There are no broken memories, only forgotten destinies. Mad Dog. The trees, they speak to me. Oh Gitchy Dog. The jack pine and the cedar preserve a dreamer's memory. Mad Dog. The trees, they speak to me. Oh Gitchy Dog. Birch and willow hold dreams waiting to be free. Mad Dog. Mad Dog, Drunk Dog, Gitchy Gaye, oh wah hey, Red Dog, Yellow Dog, Jack Pine Tree, dreams set free. Mad Dog, Black Dog, Gitchy Gaye, Mad Dog. Gitchy Dog, oh Gitchy Dog, oh Gitchy Dog, oh Gitchy Dog, oh Gitchy Dog, And then they sing together, Mad Dog and a Gitchy Dog. Drunken bones and long forgotten dreams, remember destiny. The jack pine and the cedar preserve a dreamer's memory. So that's that.
A very powerful song. And a song about destiny and a renewed sense of destiny versus the challenges and the pain. Tell me more about Mad Dog.
I read this recently at a poetry reading, and it was a mixed group of native folks and non-native folks. And I said, how many of you know what Mad Dog is? And all the native folks raised their hand, and the majority of non-native folks didn't know what it was. Mad Dog is a very cheap alcohol that it's been so long since I drank, I don't even know, but you used to be able to just get it because it was cheap. And so a lot of people on the streets would drink it. But Mad Dog is like the elder here who's kind of lost in addictions or whatever. And here's this young person, Oh Gitchy Dog, saying to the elder, I want my name. Tell me. Tell me our traditions. Tell me our history.
And hold the dreams. Hold the dreams.
Yeah.
And by having them sing together, have they made connection? Have they been able to create the destiny for each other?
Right. At the very end, Mad Dog does give him his name, Oh Gitchy Dog. So like if it was when you take the sheet music, you don't know that the that the second character's name is Ogechi Dog.
Got it. How was it to write for opera and musicals and integrating the Ojibwe music?
You know, I'm Ojibwe. That's what makes the second half of the book Ojibwe music, is that's who I am.
Exactly.
But I can't sing. I don't sing. I don't know how to write Western notation, musical notation. And so in order for these things to be set to music, I have to work with a composer, someone who knows how to, put the musical notes there so that someone can sing it, or so that it can be played on the piano or in an orchestra. And so I've worked with native composer Brent Michael Davids, non-native composer Ann Milliken. Some of the pieces in here, so like there's the very first one in this segment of performance songs is a 49 song, which is a song that's typically sung at the drum. And I worked with Mark Erickson, who's a traditional singer on the drum, and I wrote the words and then he sang it so that it could actually be recorded for one of my theater pieces. And so there, it's interesting. It's like, let me see which one it was that we talked about.
But it also gives you great hope that even if someone doesn't know how to read sheet music, they can create music. If they don't know how to play a guitar,
That's right.
They can still connect with their song, which gets back to what you shared with us in that first segment, is that we all have a song. How do we discover that song within us? And then
Right.
the next step is, how do we share that song with others and connect with others in their song?
Right.
Which I see in your collaboration work that you do, is how do you bring the Ojibwe song and work with non-natives with their song and create a welcoming choral of music.
I think that there are Native people who know how to, do the West, like Brent, he knows how to do the Western musical notation. Liz Jackalau from Fond du Lac, she's getting her PhD in Native music, Ojibwe music. Like I'm sure she knows how to. She knows how to sing. She knows how to do the musical notation. She knows, like she can do this.
Yes.
The whole package. And so can Mark Erickson. Well, I don't know if Mark writes musical notation. He can create it so that it can be sung at the drum. But yes, like it's another way of saying there are so many people out there who once you stop and pay attention to this world that's here, there's so much more that can be done, and so many of the things that can be written and shared and move forward to, like I said, to these future generations, like we talked about earlier.
The 7 generations forward.
Yeah.
Well, on our next segment, I'd love to have us talk about Of This Turtle Isle, that poetry, because I think that takes the next step as well in terms of how do we create connection amongst all of us. But before we go to break, I want to make sure that our audience knows how to get your book, how to celebrate your poetry. And what I would recommend is going to the U Press, and that's upress.umn.edu, and then look up Marcy Rendon, and that's spelled with a C-I-E with Marcy, and Rendon is R-E-N-D-O-N, and then look for Anishinaabe Songs for a New Millennium, and that's, of course, through the University Press. So we'll be right back, and in our next segment, we'll have a poem that brings a lot of different ideas together that I look forward to having you share. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and I'm glad that you've joined our conversation today. Our topic's been celebrating Anishinaabe songs, their power to connect and heal. And joining us has been author Marcy Rendon, and we've been talking about her new book, Anishinaabe Songs for the New Millennium. And as I promised in our last segment, I'd love to have you share of this Turtle Isle poem from that book.
Okay. So of this Turtle Isle, it was commissioned by World Theater or World Voices. The artistic director was Carl Erickson, and the Western musical notation was written by Brent Michael Davids. Of this Turtle Isle, Ona gente en Dios, a people in God, en Dios, Indians. On a ship bound from nowhere, we land on Turtle Isle. In the shadow of the morning, in the hands of innocence, a wild child, ghetto child, walks me safely home. Lost on a foreign continent, no place to call my own. In the concrete village far from Saigon, in a steel jungle, a wild child, res child, walks me safely home. Lost on a foreign continent, no place to call my own. On Turtle Isle, compassion frees my soul. Elders hold our language to our ear while our children ghetto speak. With ageless innocence, their bodies move to the heartbeat of this Turtle Isle.
So you share in the book how this reminds you of your Phillips neighborhood in Minneapolis.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Well, Phillips neighborhood is here in South Minneapolis. It's sort of like on the edge of downtown, bordered by Hiawatha, 35W 94. And when I first moved to the Twin Cities, it was like the reservation in the city. It's where all the Native people were, all the Native organizations. And over the years, it's changed, and I think it's because it's a poverty-stricken area and rent is low. And so when new immigrants come into the Twin Cities areas, often the place to find cheap housing is in Phillips neighborhood. So it's become a gathering place for people from all around the world at this point in time, even though it's still the center of the Native American community. And people coming from other countries, going all the way back to Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know anything about the Native people who exist here, who did exist, continue to exist, and that we're here, and that this is our homeland, and that we're the ones that, it's our ancestors that feed the soul of this Turtle Island. And so it's saying to all of those people, you're here, and so are we. And it doesn't, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
I love the en Dios.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea, children of God.
So that's actually a line from what Columbus wrote when he reached the Caribbean areas. He said these are such beautiful people, peaceful, like God, in God. They, like they're living in harmony with God. So those lines are taken directly from Columbus's writing on arrival here in what he called the New World.
And as immigrants come, and you in your community and the indigenous people lead a more sense of humanity in bringing people together. What great welcoming of immigrants into the indigenous spirit of Phillips neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. And they receive anybody new here once they start the educational system, and then what's been put out around the world is the same misinformation.
Yeah.
That we've disappeared, that we really don't exist, that we were all riding around on horses, living in teepees.
Right.
And that's not the culture that was here. That's a Plains culture. It's a different culture. So some of it is people from around the world get here and they don't know anything either about who we are or the original intention of the people of this land, which was to live in harmony with each other and with the living environment.
And what a stark comparison to the politics of anti-immigration, which is tragic, and again lies about that as well.
Right.
And how beautiful the comparison is, that is a welcoming force to live in peace and to connect, and to hear each other's song,
Right.
and to create that song together is, such a beautiful heart, a beautiful way to live on the Turtle Isle. And that in the book you talk about this continental community can survive only by adhering to, listening to the voices of the ancestors, by being one with Turtle Island. And I took that to mean that we can become part of Turtle Isle as well. We are the Turtle Isle, in celebrating that with you.
The Hopi prophecy that Thomas Bianca went around the world actually talking about back in the late 60s, early 70s, was the need for all peoples of the world to follow the teachings of indigenous people about living in harmony with the earth. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just about this Turtle Isle, it's about how do, all peoples all around the world listen to the indigenous people of their part of the earth, mm-hmm. because it's the traditional teachings and the living in harmony with the whole entire living ecosystem that has the potential to stop the current climate crisis that we're living in.
And perhaps heal us in a way that by connecting with the earth, we can remember, just like so often, and in your last poem, in their last segment, how we can forget, but how can we remember?
Right.
Marcy, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your poetry, not only with me and our audience, but sharing it with the world. I encourage all to get her beautiful book, and you can do that by going to a website, the UMN book publishing. Let me pull up that. Here we are. That is UPress, UPRESS.UMN.edu, and then look for Marcy Rendon. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcy, and thank you all for being a part of our Connections radio show here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.